Welcome back to our Perspective podcast. It's Thomas. Super excited to be joining y'all for another episode. Today, we talked about the importance of mentorship and how my mom was super fearful about how I was growing up in an all-girl household and how that led her to put as many men as she could as possible in my life, and just what that meant for me, and how that has shaped me into the man I am today. It's a great episode. We loved it, and we hope you enjoy it too.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Our Perspective. Thomas is back.
Yes, new episode, new shirts.
I was like, don't say that. And you did.
Of course. Yeah.
I love it. So we loved having you last week. It was so good. It was such a great start. And such a different perspective than me and the girls, which is what I was so excited about. So we kind of ended off last week. We were talking about your communication style, you
Right.
being a P and all of that fun stuff, and just kind of like how you being a P has just kind of formed who you are and how you've made relationships and those types of things.
Mhm.
But growing up also, in a household full of girls, growing up as the firstborn, growing up in a single parent home, all of those things always brought me so much worry. Did you notice that actually growing up, like that I was worried about those things?
Yes, I did notice that. There was just such an urgency to surround me with people, and um, I think there was just a lot of concern sometimes if I wasn't like doing what all the other guys were doing.
Yeah,
Um, and so, or if like I had guy friends, like I remember middle school had a lot of female
you did.
friends. I had my core group of guys too, but I definitely got caught up in a lot of that, especially middle school. So I definitely noticed there was sometimes a sense of worry or
Mhm.
like what are you doing kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, because you also like being the way God created you to be. And I feel like you were that way since the day you were born. Like it wasn't like being raised in a single parent household. None of that. I feel like yes, there were definitely some of that stuff mattered, but from the minute you were born, like you were just like an old man. You were like very slow. You weren't like all the other boys. Like you didn't roughhouse. Like you roughhouse, like a little bit, but you
just my
weren't.
sisters.
Yes, just your sisters. But you weren't that kid. Like I could say from a baby, like don't touch that. And you wouldn't touch it. Like you weren't that kid that got into things. I didn't even have to baby proof the house when you started walking. Like you would never get into anything or climb things or jump off of things. Like you just never were that kid.
Mm-mm.
So but, of course, like, I feel like it was always, like, the core of who you were.
Right.
Like, you always were just, like, very, like, laid back, just kinda chill.
Mhm.
But then growing up and just being girls and, like, standing outside of Sephora, like you said last week, or going
Yeah, no,
into
it smelled terrible.
yeah.
A lot of perfumes going on there. Like literally made me itch. So yeah, it was not good.
It made me itch. Going into, like, girl stores. I mean, I remember, like, Carmen was homecoming dress shopping, and poor thing, like, you had to come. Like, you went. No, you were the saving grace that day because Carmen had a freak out, and you were, like, the peace always to the storm. So you came in and just, like, got her calm, and we figured it out. But yeah, you just kinda had to come to all those things. So I was worried. It's so funny. I was wondering, like, I forgot to ask you that. Like, did you notice that I was worried?
Sometimes I did notice.
So then I was very like it was very important to me to like orchestrate like, okay, I need men around him. I was like super worried about this. So I would try to orchestrate like different men in your life, or like, I think you're gonna go spend time with this person, or I think you're gonna go spend time with this person. And, like out of fear, I was trying to orchestrate all those things. But meanwhile, God was in the background doing his own thing.
Yeah,
Which is always what he does.
absolutely.
And so like I remember you were probably like in 6th grade, right?
Probably.
Like 5th or 6th grade. And it was Easter Sunday, and poor thing, we always had like 25 different services, just kidding. But we had
Yeah.
so many services for Easter, and you guys were such great sports, and you were at all of the Easter services, like starting on like Thursday and then Good Friday and then sunrise
Yeah, their
service.
sunrise. That was the one we attended, and then
Yep.
we spent the next 2 setting up chairs for all the extra donations.
And you guys always served and you guys always did so many things. But I remember like only because like you didn't want to go in the zone or something. So I let you like stand in the lobby with me and hang out with me. And then you met an amazing kind of mentor that kind of like took you on really. And it happened so organically
Yeah.
with no stress at the exact time that you needed it.
No, most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, he was, and I didn't kinda realize the gravity of his sacrifice of being that mentor for me, but, so many things. He's 2 younger boys,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's so many things that he just involved me in. If they were going to a football game, he was bringing me to. If sometimes they would go out to dinner and watch a sports game at a sports bar or something, and I'd tag along, or even just spend the day at his house, like, in the pool with the
Yeah.
boys,
I
and so,
remember that.
and just so many just great moments where it was either just me going over there or, us as a family spending time with their family, and just it was just so nice to kinda have someone kinda just, step in and be someone I can go to just to talk about things with and get to experience some of those things that are, guy things to do with
Mm-hmm.
him, and so, it was really just an incredible experience, and I know we were talking about this before the podcast, but just it wasn't until I got older that I realized what a sacrifice that was, having 2 younger boys just, as a pastor and pastoring his, congregation, to involve me in those things and kinda let me tag along and be a part of those memories, like, what a selfless thing that is, and so it was just so good to get to know, his boys and get to kind of build that relationship with him. But looking back, it was just so crucial, even in college.
Yeah.
Someone that I went to and I called and talked to when I needed it. So it was just
Well,
super
I
helpful.
remember that happened, and then you wanted to go. There was a really great school here in Tampa that you attended. It was an all-boys
Hmm.
school. It's called Jesuit. You wanted to attend, and I remember he was the first person I called because, well, you were saying, "Hey, mom, I really want to go there,"
Right.
and I was like, "I have no idea how you're gonna go there." Like, I looked at my paycheck and I was like, "Honey, I don't know." But I remember us talking about it, like, you seriously saying, "Mom, I really wanna go."
Yeah.
And I feel like I have always been honest with you guys, like, what is, like, realistic and what's not realistic.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, "Honey, I don't know if that's honestly realistic." And I remember you saying, "You know what? Can we just let God shut the door?"
Right.
Instead of you shutting it for me.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, like, you just, like, schooled me at that moment.
God's like, you got me.
I was like, "Okay, that's a good." And then when you said that, I was like, "Alright, I've gotta get him over here the night before you had to take an entrance exam." And he was, like, one of the people that I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna do dinner, will you come over?" And he, like, prayed over it with some other men from the church, like,
Hmm.
"Would you pray over him, as he goes in to take this test tomorrow? Like, if it is God's will for you to be a Jesuit, then you are gonna be a Jesuit," you
Right.
know? And so and he did, and he showed up, and you got into Jesuit, and then I remember that summer, like, you have to wear a tie. And, I didn't teach you how to tie a tie. I don't know
Mhm.
how to tie a tie. And I remember you in your room, like, getting so frustrated.
Yeah.
Like, you were getting so frustrated. And I remember I was like, "Hey, I gotta go to church. Will you come with me?" And you're like, "I don't wanna go." I'm like, "I need you to come with me." And I wasn't being honest. And I grabbed a tie and we got in the car and we drove over to his house because it
Yeah.
was on the way to church. And you're like, "What are we doing here?" And I was like, "I'm dropping you off. I called him. He's home, and he's gonna teach you how to tie a tie."
I was not happy with
You are
that.
not.
No, I wasn't. I was just you caught me off guard. You caught me by
Mhm.
surprise,
Which you don't
and
like with your little
I don't
personality.
like that at all.
Mhm.
And I just think that was like a moment where, as a guy in a house of all girls, yes, I had so many great men, but there was a lot of things I had to figure out. Like I
Yeah.
remember, like my uncle was the one that bought me my first little shaving kit, and I was like kind of just figuring it out on my own and what's normal and what's not, and so many things I just kind of had to learn how to do. And so, I always kind of had that mentality of I'm gonna figure it out.
Mhm.
And so, I guess sometimes like I think it was like the first time I really went to one of these mentors and needed like help to
Mhm.
do something like that, and even something as simple as tying a tie. Um, and so it's just like kind of just a moment of like, no, I can handle this myself. Like I can figure it out. Like I didn't want the help. Because I never really I never had it, so I never
Mhm.
really seeked it out. But I'm so grateful that you did because one, I learned how to tie. The goal was accomplished. But it did just bring a sense of confidence of
Mhm.
just, having someone that was gonna step in and wanna help me
Mhm.
and wanna be there for me. And even a moment as simple as that was just, um it really meant a lot to me.
Mhm.
That tie, I wore him every day. He even gave me the little trick of, like, you have to tie it once, and you just kinda loosen it
Loosen
up
it
a
up.
little bit.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and my ties looked a lot better from that day forward,
Mhm.
and it's so funny now because one thing I always admired about him, he was such a snazzy dresser,
Yeah.
at least from the moment I met him. He had the bow tie on, I think it was the first time I met him, he was wearing a bow tie. And I love dressing up now for things and wearing a suit to things. I remember I had a presentation for a project and I was like, "Oh, I'm going full suit." And I was like, "Really? Like we're just gonna wear a jacket and some like khakis." And I'm like, "No, I'm going full suit." And I think I definitely gained that appreciation. One, because I had to do it for high school for 4 years and I learned
Mhm.
how to dress, but also just he always dressed that way. He was
Mhm.
always so confident and so
Well, and he
happy.
did. He taught you like, "Hey, you dress like the better you dress, the more confident you are."
Yeah. Mhm.
And he taught you that principle. And then I remember for your 15th birthday, it was like a big deal. Like for, the Spanish culture, like
Mhm.
15th birthdays are a big deal, especially for girls mainly. But I wanted it to be a big deal for you.
Yeah.
And so I had reached out to all of the men in your life that really at one season or another had poured into you.
Yeah.
And then we surprised you
Mhm.
at
Texas
Texas
Day
Day
Brazil.
Brazil. That's what it was.
You sat me down with a bunch of men to eat a bunch
A
of
bunch of
meat.
meat.
Yeah, it's about as masculine as it could get, Vert, in mom's eyes, so
I know, and you're like, "You're not staying?" I'm like, "Nope, it's just you guys." And they all wrote you letters.
Mhm.
I asked them to write you a letter. They all wrote you letters, and it was just such a cool, like, experience, like, just watching you with them and just how they poured into you and how they formed you, and that was just incredible. Like, I just remember, like, I worried about so many things I just didn't need to worry about. You were fine.
I was okay, and I'll say, like, I wasn't the macho guy
No.
that even high school, like, going to an all-boys school and then going home to all girls, the tale of two extremes, let
For
me tell you.
real. I know. We're gonna talk
It
about
was
that the
pretty
next episode.
crazy getting thrown one way and the other,
Mhm.
but, my gosh, I sometimes I did kinda stroll to fit in, and so,
Mhm.
it was just nice having just men and mentors who, 1, told me it's okay to be
Yeah.
who I was, and 2, you know, did that through action and, like, loved me through it.
Mhm.
And, just so many we talked about this before, but, it wasn't just him, but there were just so many of them that we'd go to the golf range
Yeah.
or they'd take me fishing,
Mhm.
and just the simplest little things now that I look back and I'm like, those are the things I'm passionate about now.
Mhm.
It's so
Well, I
those are the core
remember
memories.
even, like, when you were young and, like, at the very beginning of just, just right after the divorce, and one of the pastors, like, really took you under his
Yeah.
wing. Like, and I remember, like, it was a day that just something had just happened, and we had the whole summer explosion thing happening,
Mhm.
and I was just really just broken. Like I had to like keep going because I was working there and I had to work,
Right.
but you realize like the brokenness that I was experiencing gave me so much grace. But that wasn't even the cool part. Like I just remember I was working like registration that day, and somebody came in and they're like, hey, like they came out, they're like, come inside, like Thomas is on stage. And I was like, "What do you mean, Tom?" And it was like, "What do you mean Tom is on stage?" I'm like, and we were all going through stuff. Like we were
Right.
old enough to understand what was happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Why did he put," and I was so angry. Like, "Why did he put Thomas on stage?" Like knowing that he was so like hurt today and all of this stuff. And I'm like, "Gosh, I don't even know what Thomas is going to do on stage." And he just like placed you on the stage, like literally lifted you up, gave you so much confidence, is like, "Hey, you're gonna pray over all," they were like 1,200 kids.
Mm.
And like you are going to kick off summer exposure and you're gonna pray over all these kids. And I remember sitting in the back like, what is he doing? But it was like exactly what you needed.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
'cause you stepped into a world of confidence. I think, like, that day, like, shifted for you. Like, you just shifted into, like, I don't know, a calling or something.
Well, and I know you've always, like, you've always told me, and I think you tell all of us this, but, like, you're anointed, and
Yeah.
you are a child of God,
Mhm.
and I think that was, like, the first time, like, I felt that. Like, I
Mhm.
felt like, gosh, there is a calling on my life from
Mhm.
God, that there is something greater than this, and even at just such a young age. It did just lead me to a sense of confidence, and, that led me into going to when they did the clash camp for, like, first through all the way up to high
Oh,
school, and I gave
yes.
my testimony, like, that would have never happened if, he didn't put me in that position to
Yes.
start, and that's where the iconic "I got divorced"
Yes.
comment came from.
Yes. I
Um,
totally forgot
and
about
everyone
that.
laughed at me. Everyone, like, it was like
Yeah.
going to the bathroom afterwards, like, "You got divorced, blah, blah, blah," but it really, it opened up the opportunity to get to speak to a men's group
Yep.
about it, and even at such a young age, like, I look back on that, I'm like, "Gosh, I was talking about such the most random things,"
Mhm.
and I look back, but, there were so many stories that came out of
Mhm.
that where, men were touched and moved and really got to hear the story of a heart from a kid who was going through, a
Mhm.
tough situation.
Well, he put you on stage
Mhm.
in front of our men's group
Yeah.
at you were, like, 7 or 8.
I was not I mean, it was
Y
1st or 2nd grade.
yeah, you were I remember you had this little blue little shirt with your little
The monogram.
monogram on it.
Yeah.
So, I feel like you were 7, like,
Yeah.
that's a shirt you had in 1st grade, and he's like, "I want you to share your story
Yeah.
of, like, your parents getting divorced because I want all these men to hear," and I was in the back, standing in the back, and you were so confident and sharing your story to those guys and saying, like, basically giving them a charge, like, "Stand up, men. Do not do this. Like, we as our kids, like, need you dads in our lives." And, like, everybody in that room was wrecked. Like,
Mhm.
I remember, like, men coming up to me and, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm, like, on the verge of divorce. I'm gonna go home and, like, repent, and I'm gonna make my marriage work. Like, I don't want my kids to experience what he shared on that stage." Like, it was incredible. Like, the opportunities that these men like, where I would like, "What are we doing putting a 7-year-old on stage?" But it's like he knew. It's like the Holy
Right.
Spirit was like, "No, like, let him share his story."
Yeah. And that's so good because I think, like, now that I'm older, you deal with peer pressure and you deal with what other
Mhm.
people are gonna think of you, but being so young, you just don't worry about those things.
Yeah.
And I think it was just such a great moment for me to start that young where that didn't matter. I really didn't care what
You
anyone
didn't.
said because
I don't think
I
you
didn't
even
have the
knew.
knowledge.
Yeah,
I didn't
you didn't
know.
know.
And I was just up there
Sharing.
telling my story
Right.
like he asked me to, and I even got a really cool Lego
You
set
did get
out
a
of
really cool,
it.
like, set out of
That
it.
Mary Grace broke, by the way. She did. We'll talk about that later, but she did break that one after I deliberately told her not to do what she was doing. Um, but no, and it was just those were the moments that early on just gave me so much confidence and really just so much faith too. And
Yeah.
just really confidence that God knew what he was doing, God had a plan,
Mhm.
and that he was going to take care of me
Mhm.
as long as I stayed faithful. And so it was just a really, really cool experience. And like I said, I know that was a time for you where you were just really worried.
And but it was so funny, and I was worried, like, I mean, gosh, like, all of those things built my faith.
Yeah.
Like, all of those things were like, "What are we doing?" You know? And then God's like, "Just watch. Just watch. Like, I've got him. I've got him." There were so many times that, even when you went to Jesuit, like, and this is gonna be our next episode because I feel like that alone, you know, I just felt like I was, "Okay, are we sure you wanna go to Jesuit?" It was, like, crazy rich kids and, like,
No,
all of this stuff and
and there was people that didn't think I could do it, didn't think I was gonna make it. There was, the whole idea of going to a Catholic
yeah.
school, that was a
Yeah,
big,
that was a big
big
deal.
deal,
Mhm.
and, like, I'm so excited to share more about
Yeah.
all of that in the
Mhm.
next episode,
Mhm.
but, Anthony, I think there was just such a moment where starting all of that stuff so young gave me such a
Mhm.
sense of confidence and peace that I know you were super worried,
Mhm.
but I guess I wasn't,
You weren't. That's what always, like,
you know?
brought me so much peace is that I always watched you walk out the door to go to high school, and you just I don't know, you just had peace and confidence.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was more worried about it than you were, and you just walked out with your little book bag and, and you're going to school.
Went to my classes
And
and
your freshman year where you're so much tinier than any of the other kids. I mean, they were towering over you, those seniors, and you were this little short. I mean, you definitely grew. You definitely hit your growth spurt. All those fun
not
things.
that much though.
You did.
Not as much as I would have liked to. Not as much as I would like to.
And I can't wait to share the stories, but like it's just like you're right. You had so much faith, and like it was mentors like these pastors that even at your high school graduation, where it was like COVID time, and you had very small amount of tickets. That was the person you wanted at your graduation. He was there.
And he cheered when no one was supposed to.
Yes, he
He did yell, "Y'all go Thomas," after they deliberately said not to.
He did. And then when you went off to college, which was crazy transition.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that was the most like that I really just saw you really step into like just being a man. Like
Yeah.
and it was like senior year, like I feel like with all of you guys, but you were my first, so I didn't know, but like you started pulling away and I thought you were like pulling away from me. And and I was like so like wait, does he, like I don't know, does he not love me? Does he not want to, does he not?
No, I call you every day.
I know
I don't know.
I know
You
you
can
do.
doubt that.
It was so scary though. Like
I
now
know.
I know it was such a rite of passage for you.
Yeah.
But then freshman year, you're like experiencing college, everything's crazy. And I know that we have such a healthy relationship because any time that I mean, gosh, I said you got in trouble, like you were pretty chill. But there was a couple times.
Mhm.
And, and I was so proud that you would call me instead of trying to figure it out on your own. And there was like one night, it's super late night and you called me and like told me, and try not to figure out on your own and you shared and you were honest. And I was like, and I remember always telling you guys growing up, like, I don't care. I'm not going to be mad at you. I'm going to be disappointed. I was disappointed in some of the things, that you did. But I was never going to be mad if you just told me the truth and like helped like we could figure this out together.
Right.
And you did. You called me, you told me the truth, we figured it out. And my next step, I went straight to work that next day. I went to the pastor and I was like, "Hey, he was so incredible." And I was like just I was sad. I was sad for you. I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like is he going is he going crazy?" And I know, and it wasn't even that bad. Like I mean, I'm exaggerating cuz I mean, it was scary.
Yeah.
But and he's like, "I'm calling him." Like, I mean, literally, like, he's like, "I'm gonna finish this meeting and I'm gonna call him." And he did. And then you guys spoke for that whole freshman year.
Yeah.
You guys had a meeting once a week
Mhm.
and you guys would like just talk. And I felt that grounded you
Right.
so much. Like, I felt like after that, like everything just kind of turned around.
Yeah.
And I feel like he came back and just reminds you who you were.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of kids in college struggle with that. I think especially a household, as crazy it was, there was still a structure there. And I think you go from having that structure to no structure, and you're trying to figure it out on
Mhm.
your own.
And you're trying to fit in and
Exactly. There's so many different things
Mhm.
that are pulling you.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about, that and kind of what led to all that later, but it was just nice to have someone that was gonna call me and, 1, keep me accountable,
Mhm.
but 2, like you said, was just gonna remind me who I was.
Mhm.
And, remind me, what the point of what point of it all, which was Jesus. And just to kinda have that rock there, and, I wasn't perfect my first couple years of college, but it kept me just close enough that I knew where to go back to.
Mhm.
And a lot of that was you, but a lot of that was them as well.
No, yeah.
And now looking at where I am now, like, I wouldn't be where I am today without those men,
Mhm.
without that constant reminder.
Mhm.
And so I'm just so grateful for it because, while I didn't always stay steady, they always stayed steady for me.
Mhm.
And, you just need people like that,
Mhm.
guy or girl, but
Mhm.
especially men. Just
So, like, if you were to say something to a parent right now about this, like, whether it's a single parent, whether it's, like, parents that are married, it doesn't matter, like, I think even married parents, you still need these men around your life, like, what would you say to a parent right now? Like, I know, like, gosh, thank you, Lord, that he just orchestrated it all,
Yeah.
but, like, what would you say?
Well, I'd say, specifically to men, just
Yeah.
your role in the household is just it's so important. And I know, and being a mom and that is really, really hard, and you work 2 full-time jobs as a mom a lot of times these days, but you are a leader of a household. You talk about the statistics of, sticking with the faith. And it's like if the wife goes to church, but the husband doesn't, there's the less than 10% chance that they're
Yep.
going to stick with it.
Yep.
If the kids, it's a little higher, but if it's the husband, it's an over 90% chance. And just God has created marriage and the family. And we've been talking about this so much in church. And
Mhm.
as I've been getting more serious in my relationship and learning more about this, of what marriage and what a family unit is, and it's a representation of the church. And as men, and as fathers and husbands, your job is to be Christ, is to die to yourself
Yeah.
for your family. And so, and you saw some of these mentors who were pastors, and that was their responsibility to their church, was to die for themselves and even die to their family to serve kids like me who didn't always have that around. And I'm so grateful that they leaned into their calling and they were able to do that for me. But, as men, like, don't create an opportunity where someone else needs to step in and do that.
That's
Do that
fair.
yourself.
Mhm.
And as boys too, like, whether you're in middle school or high school, or maybe you're in college and maybe you don't have that, like, find that person,
Mhm.
whether it's a small group leader or just an older friend,
Mhm.
someone who's been through it,
Mhm.
and is gonna be able to speak to you, and probably, they probably made the same mistakes that
Yeah.
I made, and
Mhm.
and and they experienced it themselves, and just but find someone that you can talk to, that you can
Mhm.
just be honest and open with, because, you're gonna need them at one point or another,
Mhm.
and there's gonna be a point where you don't know who to call, and
Mhm.
you want someone that, you can pick up the phone and call anytime. They're gonna pick up, and they're gonna talk to you, and so just having that for me was just crucial. And so, for men in the room, whether you're, even if you're a college student now, or maybe you're just dating, or you're just in high school, like, it's never too early to start being a mentor.
Mhm.
And it's great practice
Mhm.
because you are going to be a mentor every day in your household.
Mhm.
If you're called into marriage. And so, it's just kind of the step up,
Yeah.
just step it up and be that, because you just don't realize how important that role
Mhm.
is. And so thankful that, you kind of defied the odds there, and, put those people around me. And really, it was just a
Jesus.
God that,
Mhm.
placed those people. Like you said, God's timing is always perfect.
Mhm.
And you place those people in my life. And so just so grateful for that there were those men, and we need a lot more of them. I mean, you see the state of the world right now. And just it's just so important to have more of those men that are gonna be just rocks for their families and for their
Mhm.
communities.
Mhm. So good. So good. There was this verse that in Exodus 14:14, and it says, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." And this was in a Moses where this is in a moment where it was in between the parting of the Red Sea
Mhm.
and the Egyptian army like chasing after them. And I just
Yeah.
can't imagine being there. I'm like, we're gonna die. Like, we're gonna die. And he said, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still."
Yeah.
And I wish that there's so many times that I try to orchestrate things, or as a mom, like try to orchestrate something instead of just like, you know what? I know that the Lord is going to fight for me. I just need to be still and have faith. I did learn that after time, but I look back and I'm like, gosh, what was I worried about? Because the Lord did fight for us.
Right.
Like as a family, like you said, you defeated the odds. Like
Yeah.
the statistics of males growing up in a single parent home or girls growing up in a single parent home isn't amazing.
No, they're not.
And but I do feel like this verse is so like it's so close to my heart because I feel like and he's still fighting for us.
Right.
Like we'll get into that more, but like I like everything. I look back in these last 16 years and see how he has fought battles, like so many battles for us.
Mhm.
And we have benefited from those things. And he's just blessed us beyond measure
Yeah.
in those things. So,
Yeah.
all right, your second episode. Do a pro.
I
Start your own podcast, Thomas.
I'm
Start your
going
own
to.
podcast.
Auburn Sports Podcast. If y'all know everything going on with Auburn sports, just tune in. We're gonna make it happen.
I could see that. I could see you one day in your basement having your own
I
podcast.
told you, I just need
No, I
like an
know.
hour just to talk into the abyss about everything wrong with Auburn football right now. It would make me feel a lot better.
I bet a lot of people would
Yeah.
listen.
And I just want to say one more thing really quick too, because I just love the verse that you shared, and I think
Mhm.
it's important to realize. You kind of brought in the context, but so much of we think like when it gets super chaotic and crazy, we kind of lose sight of that, and so it's important in those moments. So like that was a moment of absolute chaos for
Yep.
the Israelites.
Yep.
You're being chased by the Egyptians. You just got out of slavery. You're in
Mhm.
the desert. Like that's not a moment where God's like, you know, Moses just like laying down one night and God's like, be still. Like
Yeah.
it's a moment of absolute chaos and
Mhm.
urgency and confusion.
Mhm.
And in those moments, God is saying, just be still and
Mhm.
listen to what I say.
Mhm.
I'm going to protect you. I'm going to guide you. You can just go read through Psalm 23. That's been one that I've been, going through constantly, where he says, he's going to prepare a table for you in the
Yeah.
presence of your enemies. And so like, even when everything is going wrong around you, God's got it in control.
Mhm.
And so just be still and be in the moment and know that he's got it. So
Mhm.
even in a moment of fear, just trust that he is in control.
Mhm.
But
Because then the Red Sea parted.
the Red Sea parted.
Where you were like, "What are we gonna do?" I mean, I love the word chaos. Like, it had to be chaos at that moment.
It's millions of people
I know.
crossing through.
Mhm.
They all get across, and then God closes it back up and
Mhm.
swallows up the Israelites
Mhm.
just as he promised.
Mhm.
And so you just can't doubt God, because it doesn't matter how chaotic the situation. Go read the Old Testament, see
Oh
how
my
faithful
gosh.
God is, and you're like, dang, like the problems I have in my life are truly first world problems,
Yes, their first world
and
problems.
God still got it. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right. Great episode. Guys, thanks for joining us. Go and leave people better than you found them. Bye, guys.
peace.